special advisor to the executive governor on corporate matters. From then on, His Excellency went on to stamp his managerial imprint with several other state appointments until his successful gubernatorial run earlier this year, where he was sworn in as the executive governor of Lagos State. Let's just rise to our feet and welcome to the podium Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Have a seat.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. So what we're just going to do is we've taken some questions from people, and so we'll just ask His Excellency questions concerning the economy and concerning Lagos State. Now, the first one is probably the most obvious question that Lagosians are talking about now. That the average Lagosian commuter, according to study, loses a third of their productivity to traffic, while Lagos-based businesses are said to lose $30.5 million monthly due to this. Taking one of the fastest growing population centers in Lagos, this is an economic problem, reducing productivity of the state, health problem, increasing stress of workers. And this is a problem that has actually plagued Lagos even as past administrations have endeavored to solve it. The question then is, what are the short to long-term strategies to solve the Lagos State transport congestion issues, and how are you going to ensure that they work?
Okay, can anybody hear me? Yes. Hello? Okay. Well, first let me thank Pastor Poju for bringing me here this afternoon. This is my first time coming to this sanctuary. It's actually a very lovely place. And I imagine that souls are being blessed, and a whole lot of people are appreciating that being a born-again Christian is also not by mere say, but I can see that a lot of good things would have been happening in here. So I want to thank you so very much. I think it's an honor to be here. It's my very first time, coming to this particular assembly. So the question is about what am I going to do concerning the traffic situation of Lagos, and what are my short-term to medium-term goals. Can I stand up?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, I feel a lot comfortable. Thank you. So thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. So if you're on social media, which I'm sure a whole lot of you are, 35 minutes ago, I wasn't dressed like this. So I was coming from a national day celebration in which I was completely clad and drenched in water and rain. But in the last 35 minutes or 40 minutes to drive down from police college down here, I needed to change inside a car. That's not the point. The point is I thought that it was going to be a 15 minutes journey or 20 minutes journey, because it's a weekend, it's a public holiday. But even on public holidays, the traffic of Lagos never spares you. So there was even traffic on Ikorodu Road, and I need to mention that, just so that I pursue this morning, for the very very first time, we on our siren this morning, because I was keeping school children who were waiting to do a march past for me at the police college ground this morning, also because there was traffic. But also there was traffic because we're also doing the road, right? So the question is, what am I doing and how are we going to solve the traffic? And I'm sure a lot of people have spoken this morning. I would have loved to, I've been here in the morning and hear all what, my professors and my very good friend Bishmark will have said, so that I will have been able to pick some of the indices. But the indices I know about Lagos shows that, it's the fifth, it's the sixth, it's the seventh largest economy. But more importantly, Lagos sits on less than 1% of the size of this country. Lagos is less than 4,000 square meters. It's actually 3,700 square meters, meaning Lagos is less than 0.5% in terms of area of this country. Nigeria is well over 900 and something thousand square meters. So what that means is that in that small space called Lagos, which really cannot grow out of that number, it also sits and takes in over 10% of the population of this country, right? The population in Lagos now is over 20 million, and if Nigeria's population is over 20, so meaning that a size that has 0.4% of the area is also contributing over 10% of the population. That's one. The second indices that I also know is that vehicular traffic in Lagos, right, it's about 240 or thereabout per kilometer. The national average is about 11. So you could see between 11 and 15 per kilometer national, and Lagos has about 220, right? So if you look at those two strong indices, right, a Lagos that is 0.4%, and even one third of that 0.4% is also water, right? So what it means is that there's going to be constriction. We're going to need to, within that small space, need to be able to move this huge population from one part to the other. But what are the causes of also this traffic gridlock? And I did mention, even as I was coming, we had to actually take a detour to get here. Potholes. There's a whole lot of potholes you could see. So I joined this government, or I was sworn in at the beginning of rainy season. So I've been in government for 4 months, and rain hasn't stopped. It started raining all throughout today. And for your information, if you're inviting me to any event, I'm a rainy person. It always rains. So that's also another warning for you. So, seriously, so I started 4 months ago inside the raining season. Two things don't work together. Bitumen don't like rain. What do I say? Bitumen, they don't do very well with rains, right? And if you see any contractor, right, who is taking a contract during rainy season, half of your money is going to go down the drain because it's not going to do anything, right? So whilst I'm not going to stand and give reasons why we have potholes, right, and we have water on the road, it's just to also put it in perspective and explain to this very informed audience why we are where we are today. So the issue on traffic is done by, one, the potholes that we have on the road, which we are working day and night to be able to remedy it by the various palliatives that we're bringing on board. Secondly, is also the things that I've talked about, that the population that we have vis-a-vis the size that we're sitting on is a mismatch, right? Just coming back, I actually just arrived last night at about 8:30 last night from a lot of people who are following, they've seen on Twitter. I've been at the United Nations General Assembly, which is at a city called New York. New York, by comparison as well, I tasted New York traffic too for the first time, what it means to stay in a mega city, right? On a 20-block journey that's supposed to take us 7 to 10 minutes, right? Because of also how New York is set up, you have a lot of no right turn, no left turn. So we took a 50 minutes journey, right? And we have to walk 20 blocks back for a 7-10 minutes journey. And that's reality, right? But what does New York have that we do not have? New York have a subway. So half of the population is walking on top, another half is underneath. Unfortunately, we don't have a subway. We probably will not have a subway because our water table is so high. We really cannot dig and get, underground like that. But what do we have, right? So to solve the transport problem on the short to medium term run is to look what God has given to us, right? Let's do rail, let's do water, let's do the bus rapid transit system, which is the road. Now, almost everything, 80 to 90% of our commute, which means that on a day-to-day, about 4 to 5 million people move from the mainland to the island and vice versa, or some part of the city to another part of the city, right? So we're doing that largely with the road, and that's why you have that huge road. But what can we do on the medium to long term? So we need to have water transportation system, right? So we have built, or we're currently also building, a lot of jetties that can also utilize the waterways, and we can, begin to carry people from one side of a city to another. And that is going on. And we just acquired about 6-7 new boats. Even in this, my journey, we still spoke to other people that are wanting to bring what we call water taxis, right? Where they can carry between 60 to 80 passengers on a single route journey, right? And so coming back, when you have, if you also understand the traffic of Lagos on water is usually what we call one directional, meaning that people will leave Ipakodo or they will leave Ibeshe, in the morning, and they will go to Marina or they will go to Victoria Island. When you are returning, it's always an empty vessel or an empty boat you are taking. In the evening is the other side. They are now leaving VI to go back to Ipakodo, or to go back to Ibeshe, or to go back to Badore. So usually one traffic. So you need that economic of scale, right, for it to make sense even in terms of numbers for them, right? So we're attempting to do that on a short to medium term now. But on the long run is also to see how can we develop our rail system, right? Just behind you here, you can see the construction of the rail coming up. So people have said so many things too. Why are we just doing it now? I'm not going to stand here and talk about the fact that we lost the opportunity about 30, 35 years ago, where we're meant to have had the rail thing, but it didn't happen. But now, I was in government actually when we started, about 8, 9 years ago. And we said to ourselves that we cannot continue to just give lip service. Let's be audacious, even as a sub-national. Let's do a rail project. And we started what we call the blue line and the red line. In fact, by design, we've designed about 7, 8 rail corridors for Lagos. We have the red line, the blue line, the green line, the orange line. They're all there in terms of design. They are there. So we're doing the blue line, which had started from Mile 2. It's supposed to actually start from Okokomaiko. Mile 2, which is also one of the largest human population, to Marina, right? So people have also said and abused and said that, okay, so Lagos Rail, I've read it even while I was abroad, and said that Lagos Rail will spend $12 billion compared to Ethiopian Rail that have spent only about 500 or 600 million. $12 billion, that's 4.3 trillion. That's 4.3 trillion. My total budget in a year is less than 700, 800 billion. That means we have spent 10 years of our budget. It's not possible. We've actually not even spent up to 5% of that amount, or just about 5% of that amount. So when people write some of those stories and said you spent 12 billion on a rail and compare with another country that have spent maybe 500 or something, but what they actually also refuse to do in that analysis is that the Ethiopian model that we're talking about is built by Ethiopia. Ethiopia is a country. Lagos is a state. I'm a sub-national. With the same challenge, we're struggling to build that rail. Because one of the things that Bismarck will also tell to me is that for it to make sense as a PPP, build the infrastructure, the private sector will come and put the rolling stock on it. Meaning that you need to build, the bridge itself. They will now come and look at the tolling system, the infrastructure, meaning they put the rolling stock on it, the trains, and they will do the power, which will show the signaling. Those are some of the things that we need to do. So to answer the question really is to say that we're fully aware that there is problem right now on a short term. We're solving it. Once we finish the rainy season, extensive road rehabilitation will start to fix the roads as they were. Not that we will fix all of the 6,000 roads in Lagos in one day, because everybody takes a Snapchat or takes a picture and send it to me that I should fix their road. We are going to get there, over the time, but it won't be everything at once. We will start a massive rehabilitation once the road subsides. On the short to the medium to the long term is to ensure that we have waterways, we're able to move people on the waterways corridor as well, right? And finally, on the long run is to have our rail system also working. The BRTs are currently on. We've gotten over 800 vehicles that we're also still trying to clear from the ports. Once that also comes in, right, we'll be able to take a lot of the yellow buses off and bring more articulated buses. So the plan,
all right, sir.
Thank you. So the plan is on the short to medium to, and finally is to also have a settlement system where all of those options will be on a single ticket. But I need to also mention, to also solve the traffic issue of Lagos is also to talk about the Okada issue. Okada is everywhere, anywhere you see. So part of the things that we're going to be doing is not to leave anybody behind. People are currently using a system that is working for them, meaning that you see some Okada riders that are branded, that are using, smart pays to pay when you finish the journey. We're trying to harmonize all of them and be able to come up with a regulation system where we can account for every Okada rider. We will know who they are. We can manage them. So just so that we will know who they are, and when anything happens, in fact, the solution that some of them are bringing, they can actually disenable those Okadas, remotely. That's where we're planning to get to. But it's also something that we need to think through very well and be sure that nobody is disenfranchised. As much as possible, give everybody opportunity to play and to play well. I'm hoping that once we do all of this, right, the solutions around our traffic will be reduced significantly. Thank you very much.
All right. Because of time, let me go to education. So it's very important. Now, and we got this from teachers in Lagos State. According to the research and best practices, major drivers of quality education at the primary level include rigorous selection of teachers, the quality of training, pre and in-service, and associated payments. Reports have indicated that teachers can spend up to 10 years in public service and not get any service training. So what will your government do to remedy this and improve the quality of primary education? Now, the second one is, according to field reports, there's a general unavailability of teachers, especially in primary schools, due to teachers retiring and not being replaced because younger ones are not eager to enroll as teachers. This is a systematic issue that must be addressed urgently with strategic policies and processes to ensure continuous supply of teachers in school. What will your government also do about this?
Okay, tough one. So it's education, it's teachers, it's primary school. Thank you. So I did mention, even during the campaign, we're out of all of that now. And we said that the numbers of primary school we have in Lagos, right? Public primary school is about 1,000, but however, private primary school is about 18,000 that we have. It's about 18,000, right? And it's certainly much more than the country called Ghana that we have in Lagos already. The only major recruitment that I've given approval for in the last 120 days is for teachers. So during my 100 days, we did mention that we're going to be recruiting between 5,000 to 10,000 teachers. It's the only recruitment initiative or approval that I've given. And so we have started the process of recruiting our primary school teachers, right, that will feed into our school system ASAP. What are we seeking to achieve, right? It's not just to employ teachers, because what we've done in the last 3 months is actually to do, a fit for proper audit of where we are. And part of the things we realize is that the teachers themselves, right, needs adequate and proper training for them to get to that level. I'm also a product of a public school, right? So we said that teachers training and retraining must be paramount in our deliverable. So we've started that. We've said that the ones that have left service that have not been employed back, because there's supposed to be some what we call like an automatic replacement of primary school teacher. That has not happened in the last 3 years. So that's why we have all of this backlog. And I've said to my commissioner, I don't know if she's here, that we need to get about 3,000 to 4,000 even before the end of the year. So that exercise will start, and they're meant to put it on the website to try and be able to get as many teachers as possible. But that's not it. That's just one part of it, right? So one of the things we realize is that how do we improve learning outcomes out of this school? Because we realize that it's when you do well in the early school, primary school especially, that you can form and help that child to become a better person in future, right? So early school, primary school is so critical for us. So what we've done is we've identified an organization called, well, at the risk of mentioning their name, they're called Bridge House. Bridge House have in Lagos alone over 70 schools, and they are all low-cost schools. And they've also implemented this solution in another part of the country. So we'll formalize with them. They'll be taking over a significant part of our primary school, and they'll be giving us a technology that will enable our teachers not only to have a good training, but to be able to ensure that all the schools are, on a week-on-week basis, are teaching the same curriculum in all the schools, all the primary schools, and we can monitor the outcomes. Once you can see the outcomes, you will know what kind of outputs you're expecting from them. From the report we saw, we realized that in one term, right, learning outcomes will have improved by over 75% as compared to what they will have learned in 1 year. So we have formalized with them. They will be enabling all our teachers to be able to ensure that the learning, on a weekly basis in all the schools, in all the primary schools, are the same. The curriculum, the teaching in all the primary schools are going to be the same. And we can also monitor them. We can monitor them remotely. We can monitor them offsite. We actually will monitor teachers' absenteeism. We'll monitor who is in class, who is not in class, because each time you on it, we will know where you are, and we can remotely also see. So these are some of the things that we're planning to ensure that the schools, the primary schools, right, have the right tools to work with. That's just one part. The other part is the infrastructure in those schools. The infrastructure in those schools. We've designed how we're going to take them in buckets of 300. So the first set of 300 schools that needs to be refurbished. Refurbished meaning that they need to change some of the roof ceiling. Some of the furnitures are also not properly placed. Some of the blackboards are not interactive enough. And in some of those schools too, we need to also help them with the teaching material. So Bridge is also coming with books and exercise books and all of it. So it's a whole gamut of the chain that we're bringing into place. Finally, also to say that we're also planning to ensure that at least 1 meal a day, some sort, it's one of the things we'll give to these kids. Because part of the result have shown that absenteeism in school is also because these children are coming from homes that are really, really poor. And so in the mornings, if they've not even had anything, their capability to be to retain what they're being taught becomes challenged. So we said to ourselves that even for them to come, let them know that at least there will be one meal in a day. And we've started it, at the federal level. We haven't started in Lagos. We're hoping that before the end of this step, we will start it, not only from primary 1 to 3, but 4, 5, and 6 as well. So the whole chain is in threefold. Thank you very much, right? Teachers training, right? How they also implant, the learning culture in the school using technology, right? Like I said, the technology is such that, some people ask me that, what if there's no light? The technology is such that the handheld learning tool they'll be using need not be recharged for 2 weeks. And it can work remotely, off-site, At the end of the day, once it just downloads and it gives you all of the things. We've seen it, and we're going to use it, and it will be work. So we'll train the teachers, we'll improve the infrastructure in the schools in terms of, the environment. We'll also give something back to the pupils. So we believe that if all these three things are done, right, and we monitor them, not only will we see a lot of people bringing their kids back to public school, we'll begin to see a better outcomes from these children because they believe that they are indeed the leaders of the tomorrow that all of us are looking forward to. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll take the next question on health. And according to Pricewaterhouse 2016 report, Nigerians spend $1 billion annually on medical tourism. This is nearly 20% of the total government spending on public health sector for the year 2016, including salaries of all public health workers, capital and operating cost of all healthcare facilities nationwide, major care programs. Such expenditure comes both from government and private funding, including sponsorship and donations. Now, the beneficiaries of these healthcare services received abroad, either sponsored by the government or with personal funds, are only a fraction of Nigerians requiring such healthcare services. Apart from lost revenue, there's a negative impact on local health system. Foreign hospitals actually come to Lagos to recruit patients. Your Excellency, sir, how will you approach and address this matter of medical tourism in Lagos?
You know, there's a tourism part of it. So, and a lot of people want to also promote tourism. You know, but medical tourism is not the kind of tourism we want to promote. So it's a big challenge. I'm not going to stand there and lie to you in any form or shape. Thank you very much. The challenge is it's multifaceted, and I'll try and explain what I mean. Today we have about 380 primary health institutions. I mean, meaning, you know, primary health hospitals. We have about 28 secondary health facilities. In fact, we're actually opening another one next tomorrow. It's a 149-bed hospital that we're opening also in Alimosho next tomorrow on Thursday. Thank you. We also have one tertiary health institution. But what do we typically see? A lot of people do not necessarily want to go to the primary health, that is even closer. A lot of people want to go to the secondary and the tertiary health facility. So they get crowded, they get all filled up very easily. But the question that is being asked of me is that how do we ensure that we can reverse the medical tourism, you know, and make it, you know, available to all? The challenge is, you know, people need to understand that before something gets to like a tourism, there are two sides to it. We must have what we call diagnostic center, and we also must have what we call a curing center, right? For the diagnostic center, I imagine that a few of them are actually springing up. All of the cures and all of it, where you can go and get diagnostics, you know, and they will tell to you that this is the issue, and you know, so it is really now the real curing or the real facility that will take care of some of these things. You know, I've had discussion with people, even on my last trip. Somebody said to me that, you know, we want to come and build an hospital, you know, in Nigeria, in Lagos, you know, but the challenge we have is that they said to us that we cannot advertise even, you know, all of the various medical solutions that we can bring about. And I said, why not? They said, no, that the Nigerian Medical Council does not allow anybody to do any form. And I did the inquiry. I realized that it's true. Whilst in some other jurisdictions, you actually can bring in an MRI scan, you can bring in a CT scan, you can bring in all sort of, and you can say that these things are available in this place and that people can come and this is the price. With the medical council, you actually cannot even say it. So they said to me that that in itself is a disincentive for them, because if people don't even know that they have this, how would they be able to get the patient in and they'll come and use this facility? So that for me, it's one of the ways in which we need to actually go and correct that. You know, and they've confirmed to me, because I've also made an inquiry, they say it's true. It's for the medical doctors that are in this room, they can also raise up your hand and confirm to me if in truth that is part of the challenge there. So that in itself also affects the fact that investment will need to come to this direction, because if you do those investments, right, people need to be aware that these kind of services are available and you need not go, you know, outside of this country to make that up. So we are going to take that up with the relevant authorities and see how we can sort of like, we don't know what the issues are, how we can resolve some of that. But going further into that, from the discussion that I have been having, because it's not something new to me, from the discussion I have been having, two things is coming out of it. We realize that people still, culturally, people still take issues of their health as being very private and very secretive. People still do not want to ordinarily open up to someone and say that this is one of the things I want to treat, or this is one of the things that is doing me, and I'm looking for a solution. So people usually like take it away. But I think the set of people you're talking about are not even the kind of people that, you know, have to go abroad. So our challenge will be, how do we have, you know, our medical practitioners that are skilled enough, that have the relevant equipment enough, and the environment is conducive enough for them to be able to partake and have those high-level, you know, operation or whatever it is. So one of the things we've done, or we're currently doing, is we're speaking with huge equipment suppliers, right? Philips, General Electric, Yeah, G. General Electric. I mean, G, yeah.
Yeah, General Electric.
General Electric, Philips, and Toshiba, and all of them. All of them are making presentations to us. And part of the things we are saying is that some of those high-end equipments that are required for some of those diagnostics and for some of those treatments, can we have them? Right? But it's not just to come and have them. In what form are our current health institutions, how is our power? Because some of these equipments, they are refined power. The kind of power that needs to go inside them are so sensitive. So it's not something that, NEPA will go off, our PHM will come down or something. If not, no, seriously. So these are some of the research we're doing. Because before you know it, it can also trigger anything. That's number 2. Number 3 is also that we realize that we do not have enough biomedical technicians. Biomedical technicians, not doctors now, biomedical technicians who can handle these equipment. Right, so these are some of the curriculums that we even need to begin to pass on to our universities, because that's what they require. It's not the medical doctor that is going to touch or push on a switch in those equipment, it's a biotechnician. So all of those kind of learning things must come together for us to be able to be in a position and compete. But for us as a government, we've seen it as a challenge. We see that at some point in time, we need to make a call on it, right? We have an opportunity for someone to come and take over the ones we're looking at on Aolo Road. Like I said, I still spoke to somebody in US on this last trip, and they're saying to me that we've looked at it, it makes sense, but you still need to go and remove some operational issues in your system for it to truly, really be an investment that we want to make, and so that we can stop all of these things. I don't know if I've been able to answer it so very well, but it's true. I mean, it's something that we believe that we need to work on very quickly.
All right, just 2 more questions. One will be on technology and one will be on taxation. All right, and on technology?
I've been standing since 10 o'clock.
All right, Africa's technology scene is booming with over 400 tech hubs that range from software engineering to mobile money. This was African Finance Corporation saying this. In 2017, investment in tech startup across the continent topped $195 million. The number of funded startups grew by 8.9%. Total funding of African tech ventures grew by 51% compared to 2016. Well, what we're getting to is that a significant contributing factor has been the spread of tech hubs, including incubators, accelerators, co-working spaces in major urban centers. And they said the 3 are Nairobi, Lagos, and Johannesburg. In 2015, there were fewer than 120 hubs in Africa. New research carried out by Trade Association in early 2018 said that the number has increased to 442. 45% of such tech hubs are concentrated in 5 countries: South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Egypt, and Morocco. The cities of Lagos, Nairobi, and Cape Town have emerged as internationally recognized technology centers. Now, the issue is there's a global competition for IT talent. Germany, Canada, UK give work permits easily. Poland has just announced personal income tax waivers for young engineers. Rwanda paid Andela to locate its training program in Kigali. Mauritius pays companies to move their engineers there. As a result of this, IT talent from Lagos is leaving en masse, causing disruption for local companies. What can Lagos State do to make Lagos more attractive for brilliant young engineers who have the option to live elsewhere?
Oga Bishmark. I'm on my own. Okay, I'm taking the question very well. So one of the first observations in that question is they said England, Germany, Poland, then they said Rwanda, then they said Mauritius are the ones taking all of the very smart, intelligent people. So the question is, what is Lagos State now doing to be able to stand all of that? So the misconnection there is Lagos State is the only subnational in that whole conversation. So Germany is a country, Rwanda is a country, Poland is a country, Mauritius is a country. The No, and it's a very important point. The point
sir.
to note is that they said Poland is giving somebody, a tax waiver. They said some other person is giving somebody visa waiver. They said some other person is giving somebody. These are things that typically is given by the sovereign, not the sub-sovereign. So for me as Lagos, I really cannot give somebody a tax exemption or a tax rebate, XYZ comment, because it's not under my purview. I cannot give somebody a visa waiver because it's not under my purview, right? So I'm not going to stand there and hold brief for federal government. But the point they've made is not lost on me. The point that has been made is that we have an opportunity as a major tech hub, right, to attract and retain our talent. And I say high five to all the great guys in Ikeja, in Yaba, in Unilag, in Yabatech, and all of you. I mean, you are doing great things, right? And Pastor, just for information, so you know that I'm on the same page with you. Even after my own election, the main campaign office that I have, we've since turned it to a tech hub. We've since turned it, it's called Eco Innovation Center. It's 50 hour road. They can go there. But the point that we need to take note is this. What can we as a state government do to encourage and to keep those skills and be able to make Lagos a preferred destination for everybody? So what have we done? So what we've done in the last 4 months is we've done what we call to award what we call a Metropolitan Fiber Initiative. We've approved a Metropolitan Fiber Initiative where we're deploying fiber to a last mile to almost every nook and cranny of Lagos that is required. So we're working with the telcos, we're working with the tower operators, we're working with all of the internet providers. So the person that have won the contract, it was a major competitive bid that we did. Both local and foreign companies actually bidded for this to have won this, and we've done it in 4 months, right? So somebody has won it, and so what they're going to be doing is they'll be laying fiber with our permission, and with the permission, understanding where everybody needs it. Where does MTN, Airtel, Glo, all of it, where do they want this fiber to be? So they're spacing all of that. And so what would happen with that is that our guys in the tech industry will have easier access to high-speed broadband internet, right? That will enable them to be a lot more competitive, right? That will enable the resources that will be cheaper, so that they can run, close to market quicker and better. But for us as a government, right, beyond the fiber infrastructure that we're doing, and it's going to be ready. Well, it would start getting ready from another 3-4 months. They said to us that the first sort of it is actually 3,000 kilometers of fiber in Lagos. And once they do that, they will do another 3,000 based on whatever the additional needs are. And that's where everybody's going to. You get to the last mile kind of thing, right? But on top of that, right, what we also say we need to do, we're building what we call a smart city initiative. So we're taking this fiber to our school, we'll be taking it to also our hospital, and we'll be taking it to a lot of our public buildings, so that we also can not just talk it, we can deploy something around e-governance, we can deploy something like around e-health, we can deploy something around e-education, and have, fiber, meaning as a tech enabler, for us. Secondly, also to manage traffic, to manage security issues. Once those things are available, then you begin to see CCTV's camera coming on top, where, we can begin to now monitor who is where, and all of it, right? And I think it's also important to mention, right? I don't know if other colleagues of mine, governors, have done it. I'm the only one that has a 30-something-year-old guy in cabinet who is my special advisor, innovation and technology and innovation. I don't know if he's here somewhere. He's 34, and in himself is a tech geek. And I'm not sure he's here, but that's the kind of thing we are also trying to deploy, to be able to have somebody who is not only cerebral, who understands the play, and it can also handhold us and let us deliver on this. Thank you.
One major question. Now, this has to do with taxation. I'm sure small business owners want to know. It's no longer news that Nigeria has a rising debt challenge and even greater challenge of servicing the debt. Lagos currently, as they say here, has a debt-income ratio of about 106%, according to the national 106%, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. Are you comfortable with the debt situation in Lagos? Which means, is there still room to borrow more to fund capital projects that will generate revenue for the states? Or how do you intend to fund capital expenditure as governor without the luxury of raising debt? Are we looking to increase taxes or more people paying tax? Are we borrowing, paying more tax or?
Oga Bishmark is here, eh? There's a consulting job here. So they talked about the debt profile of Lagos. We've talked about where we currently have, how we're going to be funding our capital expenditure going forward, and are we going to be increasing tax, or are we going to be widening tax? Just also mention some numbers so that we put this in perspective, right? Our budget as a state government hovers around $2 billion, right? Dollars. It's plus or minus. It's not. I'm not even sure we can do $2 billion, this year. And out of that amount, there is a local debt ratio there of about 20-25%, right? And in all of this, that's how we need to also develop, expenses on our capital budget and all of it. But the interesting thing, before I answer the full question, is, coming back from New York as well, and I'm seeing the statistics of what they have, you begin to see that our debt ratio is not alarming, is not too high in any form. The GDP to tax, ratio in Nigeria and in Lagos in particular is one of the lowest in the world. It's about 6%. It's one of the lowest in the world. So that means our GDP to tax ratio is one of the lowest, meaning that, all of you that are meant to be supporting us in terms of, we're not even there yet, right? And also, if you look at our GDP to debt ratio, is also pretty low. So there's still a lot of headroom to take on. But like I said, to look at the statistics, we have a budget of about $2 billion, right? The city that I was just coming from last night, called New York, right? There was a lady who was a commissioner. We're in the same panel, right? She was in charge of child education. Child education. Our budget was $1.8 billion. Child education. The budget of NYPD is $5.6 billion. The budget of fire department in New York is $2.8 billion. The budget of New York City is 3 times the budget of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The budget of New York City is 3 times, it's $93 billion. The budget of Nigeria is about $30 billion. So I'm just saying this in context of where we need to still be getting to, where we need to be going to, right? Even as a state, as a nation, and what are the opportunities that are available for us, right? So to go to the question, very clearly, is to say that, yes, there's still a lot of room for us to be very creative. But what are the instruments of that creativity? What are the instruments available for us to be able to borrow or have what we call creative financing, right? It's not only necessary to be taxed. We can do what we call asset securitization, right? I mean, Bishmark is an expert in that, where we need to look at our assets that we have and see how well, which one of them can we ring-fence and be able to leverage something out from. And once you leverage it, you can put it to capital expenditure. We can do the regular bond, and Lagos has been a pioneer in bond issuance, right? And so to look at that room, and we've actually been meeting all our obligations on bond, right? Bonds meaning that we can borrow 10, 15-year money long and use it to, implement our capital expenditure, not recurrent expenditure. We're not buying diesel or buying, petrol with this. It's all capital expenditure. That's number 2. Number 3, coming from the SGD, there's also the concept of green bonds now, right? It's just that, we need to raise, our sustainability and resilience capability before we can get into green bond issuance. There's so many, multilateral organizations that are issuing green bonds, and it's available. And finally, of course, is to look at PPPs, which is a model in which we're going to be using private equity, private funds to deploy for capital expenditure and in areas where we believe that the private sector can play. So for me to be able to fund my capex going forward is to say that those financing options are available, right? We can securitize, we can do securitization of asset, we can do regular bond, we can look at green bonds if we can meet up with those requirements, we can do PPPs, right? But outside all of that is also to be able to increase our tax nets. Increasing of the tax net is not increasing tax rates. It's just broadening the number of people that are paying tax. I don't know what the percentage is in this room, but I can give you the number of the percentage that we have. With about 4.5 million population in Lagos meant to be paying tax, less than 700,000 pay tax. With about 4.5 million people meant to be paying tax, less than 700, just about 700 pay tax. So you can see that, no matter how I push it, you guys still need to help me, for us to get there. Right? I don't know how many of you are doing it. You guys still need to help me. So we're not asking for anybody to even increase, the tax, to increase the tax rate. We're even saying that just be on the tax net. And you can see how much we can get. Some kind of statistics that also shows, you'll be amazed to know that the number of people that pay more than 10 million naira tax in Lagos is just about 110 people. Just about 110 that pay tax of 10 million and above. So it's still a big challenge for us to be able to get a lot more people on that tax coverage, right? And so we are also, encouraging our tax agency, to also be a bit more proactive and reach out to a whole lot more. And we are encouraging them. All of the things they require for them to do well, we're giving it to them, just so that we can have a lot more people on the tax net. And once they are on the tax net, issues around all the things we need to provide on the capex side will become a lot easier, and a lot more available for us to be able to deal with. So we're not going to be increasing the tax rate. We're hoping that we can increase the tax nets of people, right, and also ensure that people also pay, the right taxes that they are meant to pay. But outside of that is for us to be very creative with our financing and look for ways, other means of raising capex, other means of raising, finances to meet our capital expenditure program. Thank you very much.
All right. No, that's all. But I just want to ask this privately now. Now, this is my own personal opinion. It's not political. During the campaign, I had a feeling that in terms of capacity-wise, yourself and Secretary Deputy Governor, in terms of capacity-wise, were in the history of Lagos, coming into government, based on your track record, based on your experience in governance, based on things you've done in Lagos State prior to that time, Lagos was getting, in terms of capacity, coming into office at that particular point in time, right? Capacity-wise, two of the most capable hands coming in. So what I want to ask you is, we spent 125 days now, we've passed 100 days. Are you happy with the progress that you're making in Lagos State? That you are living up to the expectation?
Well, put it very simply, if you rank yourself, have you done a good job? Have you given yourself? Pastor Pod is just trying to manage it for me. He says, are you, so let's, he's trying to say, if you rate yourself, what kind of score will you give yourself? Do you think you are, are you happy? You see, so I've helped him. So he doesn't need to be nice about it with me. That's just very, thank you. The answer is very simple. The answer is that we can do a lot more. A lot more. And so what are the issues? Why can't you? You are now the governor. What are the issues? Why can't you not? So the issue is, all of you are management. If you fail to plan, you're also planning to fail. Right? So a lot of the things that you will see backroom that is happening, we don't need to begin to make a lot of noise about it. All Lagosians are looking for is results. It's just go fix the road, right? But like I said, right, for you to fix the road, you must be sure that the road likes what they call bitumen. At the time in which the road doesn't like bitumen, don't put bitumen because you're just going to waste money. So I'm not happy yet. I believe that Lagos can achieve a bit more. And why do I say that we can achieve a little bit more? It's because that we've been there for 125 days, like you said, right? I do not have absolute control over some things that has to do with how well I send matters to another arm of government, how well do I get it right back. They are independent, and it needs to remain as such. How quickly you get a feedback from that, we can continue to, manage it amongst ourselves. That's number one. Number two is also to be able to explain to people that we have a huge number of people, right, that we need to replace in the system, right? Unfortunately for us, in the last, yes, there's been a lot of, rightly so, not out of anything, statutory, exit that I didn't even know that huge number was going to. So that skill gap, we needed to be able to take care of it very, very quickly. That's number two. Number three is also to look at the finances of the state. I cannot come and tell you that I met, a hole that is this big. It's story. There's really nothing you can talk about, and you will never know the real finances of any state until when they are a chief executive. Nobody will tell you what it is. You don't have the right to see it until when I got there and I realized how long out we are in terms of outstanding liabilities, in terms of our commitments to local banks, in terms of our commitments even with the federal government bonds that we issue. So these are real issues that have constricted us in terms of our finances, and that we need not just rush and start borrowing, but let's be very creative. Let's actually even build let's bake a big cake for us to be able to, be part of it. So what I would say to us is that, right, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, right? I mean, it's something that we need to be able to download very well. We need to continue to run, and ensure that we can brace the entire marathon to the end. And I can assure you that Lagos will not only be greater, Lagos will see the level of development that they've never seen before.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Let's put our hands together for His Excellency. Thank you, sir. You are satisfied with the questions, right?